Greetings, denizens of the Empire. It's Jabari here. Firstly, I hope you all have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. So anyway, moving on to the topic. When we enter the discussion of ancient and medieval peoples sailing to far-off lands and founding their own kingdoms and settlements, we have a way of conjuring up images of bearded Vikings on longboats braving the icebergs of the northern Atlantic to make landfall on the coasts of Greenland and Newfoundland. Generally speaking, and as with many other things, Europe tends to be the first and the last place that we think of in this context. Outside of Europe, we may also imagine Chinese treasure ships or the Polynesians colonizing the Pacific. Africa may simply not even be factored in at all. However, peoples of the East African coast had ancient traditions of building their own indigenous vessels and sailing, exploring lands farther and wider than contemporary European states, not only connecting their civilizations with the rest of the world through trade, but also establishing their own independent kingdoms in far-off lands. Today, we will be discussing this rich, yet largely untouched on, aspect of African history. The Indian subcontinent has the largest number of ethnic groups out of any country in the world. It is highly diverse in culture, language, religion, and genetics. To Westerners, these differences are usually only known specifically in respect to the caste system and almost entirely restricted to skin color. However, these differences and diversity have ancient origins that are much more than skin deep. Despite this, we will be focusing specifically on Black and/or African populations of India. The first group of people we'll be discussing here are one of the most interesting and important subjects of this video. A people that are believed to be among the remnants of the original indigenous peoples of India. Though their populations are restricted to the Andaman Islands rather than the subcontinent itself, the Jarawa and Sentinelese people are believed to be the descendants of the original human populations that migrated out of Africa and into South Asia tens of thousands of years ago. And due to their isolation on islands, their gene pool was not subject to the effects of migrations and conquests that affected the mainland. In fact, the people of Sentinel Island are classified as an uncontacted tribe and display extreme hostility to all outsiders. In 1956, the Indian government officially banned all travel to the islands to protect the indigenous population from modern diseases and exploitation. Their physical features resemble those of Africans, including their curly or kinky hair and dark skin, but their facial features slightly differ and they are relatively small in stature with a more slender build. Collectively, these people are known as Negritos, which literally translates to little black people in the Spanish language. Despite their similarities in appearance to Africans, mitochondrial DNA testing has ruled out any recent African origin, indicating that their physical similarities to Africans are simply a result of convergent evolution that happened over a period of up to 60,000 years of isolation. Similar populations are found all throughout Southeast Asia and Oceania, including the Philippines, Taiwan, Thailand, and Papua New Guinea, the latter of which was named after the West African country of Guinea due to early explorers noticing the physical similarities between the people in the region. Many of these communities are confined to mountains, islands, or other places that offer natural geographical barriers to waves of migrations or intermarriage endemic to other regions of the world. Oh, and while we're on the topic of Southeast Asia, Kratom is a plant species indigenous to the region as well and has been used as a traditional medicine since ancient times. In my last ad, I noticed largely negative feedback when I discussed this herb, and I promise all of you that I was being 100% honest in that ad. I've tried the product, I do love it, and it does make me feel focused, energetic, happy, and mellow. I legitimately feel less stressed out and less anxious and just overall happy, focused, and productive within a half an hour or so of using it. My content is all about honesty, and the same is true for my sponsored ads. As I mentioned before, Kratom is unregulated, but sources condemning its use will consistently give you results from people who simply took too much or mixed it with other substances. In fact, the World Health Organization recently voted on a UN-wide ban with 11-to-1 majority in favor of keeping it legal. Just as I place high value and importance on fair and objective research for my videos, I definitely do the same before putting anything into my body that could potentially harm me or anyone within the empire from nothing. With all of that being said, if you do decide to give it a try, you definitely won't regret it. It's an amazing lifestyle product. You can get a 15% discount on all Happy Hippo Herbals products using my promo code or referral link, both of which can be found below. So despite there being people who can undeniably be described as phenotypically black inhabiting India and various parts of Asia and Oceania, people of proper recent African descent are a less frequent phenomenon, though not absent. In fact, despite the lower frequency of their presence, they had foundational impacts on the history of India throughout the Middle Ages. The first Africans are believed to have arrived in India at least 700 years ago, but more than likely much earlier, as coins from the Aksumite Empire have been found in India. In later years, most Africans in India were slaves brought over by Arabs, but others were merchants who sailed to India under their own wind and free will, while others were mercenaries. The ancient maritime traditions of ancient Ethiopians, Somalians, and Swahili peoples have left a prominent mark on the archaeological and historical record of India. While many of them founded their own towns and villages, some made their influence throughout Indian history very profound and attained high positions in various societies at various points in history. One of the rulers of the Bengal Sultanate, for example, Sultan Rukn al-Din Barbak Shah, had an army composed mostly of African slaves, numbering some 8,000 men. These slaves were known as Habshi in relation to the Arabic word Habisha, a term denoting peoples of Ethiopian descent. Despite their enslaved status, many of them attained high ranks in both military as well as political affairs. This is a trend repeated numerous times throughout the history of the subcontinent. Sultan Jalal al-Din Fath Shah attained the throne in 1481 and grew very wary of the increasing power and influence of some of these Habshi men. When attempting to take measures against them, he was assassinated by one of them, who was the commander of the palace guards. The throne was subsequently usurped by Shahzada, who assumed the title of Barbak Shah, and ruled for just 6 months before being assassinated by another Habshi commander, Amir al-Umara Malik Andil, who had the prerogative of avenging the death of the previous sultan. Malik then offered the throne to the rightful heir, who declined the offer in favor of Malik himself. During his short rule of 2 years, he was looked upon as a fair and just ruler. He restored order to the kingdom and made many reforms, including a new system of currency and numerous construction projects, including the Firuz Minar in Gwar. This structure, as well as the gold coin struck during the reigns of every Habshi king, can still be seen today in modern India. It is not known how Malik died, but it is speculated that it was of natural causes. His successor was soon usurped by Shams al-Din Muzaffar Shah, who is remembered as a cruel tyrant. His rule began in 1490, where he quickly raised an army of 30,000 men, in which 5,000 were fellow Habshi. His tyranny was described as having taken place in the form of innumerable amounts of bloodshed and incredibly high taxes. This pattern of royal vengeance, confusion, and intrigue continued throughout this short-lived dynasty, until finally it was halted by the action of Hussein Shah and a coalition of Hindu pikes and military guards. Hussein then systematically cleansed the entire administration of all African nobles, most of which ended up fleeing and taking refuge in northern India and Pakistan, and later migrating to other regions of India, including Deccan and Gujarat. These African refugees would go on to reassert their prominent positions in society elsewhere throughout the 15th and 16th centuries, dominating positions of power in the kingdoms of Ahmadnagar and Bijapur. As is a common trend with the content I create, sometimes I learn so much new info as I conduct my research that I can't sum up the entire topic in a single video without it being very, very long. There's just so much rich and detailed information regarding African presence in India, and with that being said, I decided to divide this video into 2 separate parts. If you enjoyed this part, subscribe and click the bell icon so you'll be notified when part 2 is uploaded. For sources, check out my website, linked below. If you'd like to support future projects, you can do so there as well, or by clicking the join button below, or by becoming a patron. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching as usual, and always remember, we don't come from nothing.